our clerk to read the roll.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley. Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present except for Councilman Neal.
Thank you. So the items that will be discussed and voted upon today in our special meeting is ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of the City of Akron a proposal to enact Section 68A of the Charter of the City of Akron to establish a Citizens Police Oversight Board in Akron to be voted upon at the next regular citywide election on November 8th, 2022. So council members, just want to remind you that our conversation will be limited solely to this item. At this time, we are going to ask for a motion to suspend the rules requiring legislation first be considered by a committee before presentation and considered by council.
Motion to suspend the rules.
So we do have a motion on the floor. Can we get a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The motion passes 12-0. Signatures 3,315, which has been verified as valid by the Summit County Board of Elections, have been submitted to the Clerk of Council, petitioning Akron City Council to place a proposed charter amendment on the ballot. The clerk has in turn determined that the submitted petitions are sufficient, and therefore the Ohio Constitution and Charter of the City of Akron require City Council to pass an ordinance placing the proposal before Akron electors at the next upcoming general election or special election as may be required by law. Offered by initiative petition, ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of the City of Akron a proposal to enact Section 68A of the Charter of the City of Akron to establish a Citizens Police Oversight Board in Akron to be voted upon at the next regular citywide election on November 8th, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. We do have two council members, Councilman Malik and Councilwoman Amobian, who were very much so involved in shaping the charter amendment, and I do believe both served on the charter committee. So I want to give an opportunity to refer to Councilwoman Amobian. Councilman Malik is deferring to you first.
Thank you, Madam President. As a petitioner on this legislation, I just want to make it clear that we believe that voters have spoken, and they're asking us to pass this ordinance so that this charter amendment can get on the ballot in November. And I think we'll pay close attention. I don't know how many of you saw the press conference the other day, but there was a lot of history given to why this is necessary. And it goes back to 1969 and to a number of incidents that have happened between the citizens and the Akron Police Department. But more important than anything, I believe this amendment speaks clearly to the need for us to have a citizens overview, a review board, placed in this city to oversee the activities that we have all become concerned about. The most important thing is that we strongly believe that this will improve not only the relations between the citizens of Akron and the police department, but it will make all of us feel safe, feel heard, and that we'll have a vehicle whereby citizens' complaints can be viewed independently, and that's the critical piece. They will be reviewed by the citizens of Akron. And we are asking for a 9-member board And we're also asking that we have some specialization on the board. We have a lawyer, a person with mental health background, a person with law enforcement background, and then citizens that would be reflective of the city of Akron. And the other 6 members could represent all of us. So I believe the time has come, and I believe for those of you who were able to see the press conference the other day, I think we clearly spelled out why this is needed. And I am very much in support of placing this charter amendment on the ballot for the citizens to have an opportunity to vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Amobian. Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank the thousands of Akron residents who signed this petition. I think the petition process is part of our democratic process and something to be respected and appreciated. And anytime we see it for that engagement is actually a small point I didn't plan on making, but all of those people who signed it have now interacted with the Board of Elections and are not going to be purged off the voter rolls. That's something that qualifies as interacting with the Board of Elections. This petition here is not a new idea. It is something that we've talked about for several years through the Reimagining Public Safety process, through the Racial Equity and Social Justice Task Force process. I believe that what's been put together here is consistent with the recommendations from both of those processes. I do not want to say there's a perfect document, but I think that it has been put together by a number of folks, and whether that includes Akron NAACP President Judy Hill, the Freedom Bloc, a number of Black elected officials of Summit County from that organization. And I want to thank everyone who's involved. There were a couple of brief points I wanted to make. First, this is meant to be a bridge between law enforcement and the police. I think the current status quo does not work for residents, and it doesn't work for police. We have to find ways of bridging the trust gaps that are there. I think this does that. It's not going to impose discipline directly. It's not going to interfere with the existing processes of investigating use of force or citizen complaints. The second is that it's specifically intended not to conflict with the collective bargaining agreement. There's language in here that every provision is to be construed so as not to violate or conflict with the collective bargaining agreement. If it was ever found by any entity that it did so, then there is a process by which that can be renegotiated, and it would require the mutual consent of both parties. And that's important to understand. No one is trying to force anything upon the existing collective bargaining agreement. And then third, I hope that this is something that can give our community something to rally around, to make progress in combating racial disparities, to strengthen accountability for wrongdoing, and to build community trust with law enforcement so that we can all work together to create a safer Akron. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Malik. Are there any other comments at this time by any other council people? We do have Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you so much, Madam President and esteemed colleagues. I think it's important to note that what's at issue today and the work that is at hand is not a matter of the merits of the content of the petition or how various people feel or view the proposal, but rather we are here to execute a duty. It is not discretionary. It is an obligation which is established in the Ohio Constitution. For those who are interested in knowing where you can find that, this would be in Article 18, Section 8 and 9 of the Ohio Constitution. What this requires of us today, again, is not discretionary. We're not here to weigh in on the proposal itself. That will be a job for the voters. Rather, having received the determination from the Clerk of Council that the petition is valid, It is our job now, and we are in fact required to do so, to certify this and send this now to the Board of Elections. Nothing more and nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Are there any additional comments or questions at this time? Councilman Lombardo?
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I just want to frame a certain situation when it comes to what we're going to be voting on. I guess what I want to say, if there's a incident that we have here in Akron, whether it be shooting basically, there's several levels I think that was already happening here or should happen. So not that I'm questioning, the status quo does not work, but, after an incident happens, we do have an independent BCI investigation that goes on. There's an internal APD investigation, independent review by the Attorney General's office, independent review by, the community or grand jury, a potential, citizens review board here. And I guess I left one out, the police auditor, Phil Young, and his team of investigation. So I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around, where does it end? Or maybe, where should we begin? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lombardo. I do see Councilwoman Amobian's hand. Councilwoman Amobian?
Thank you, Madam President. I believe Councilwoman Holland said it perfectly, that we are here to vote on this charter amendment being placed on the ballot in November, and that we have an obligation to put it on the ballot because the citizens have spoken. But we also know that for a number of years now that we've had the independent auditor, that particular person, the auditor, never had the access, the independence to investigate or review all the material. He's never had access to all of the information he's needed to do thorough investigations of the activities that we are talking about. And the citizens of Akron have made it very clear that the process that we currently have in place is not enough, it's not sufficient. And for years and years, we have talked about doing something like this, and now is the time to do it. And what we're talking about are our sisters and brothers being an independent oversight review board, people who represent us and our interests, looking at the evidence of activities between citizens and the police, or just citizens' complaints in general about their interactions with the police or with other citizens. These people can look at it independent of the mayor, independent of any kind of oversight from the Human Relations Department, and they will be independent. And once this is passed, it's up to this council to flesh out the details and look at what we're doing. But basically, what we have in place is not enough, and we have known it for years, and that citizens are asking for us to have an independent oversight review board. And I think that is what we're here to talk about today and to vote on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I do see Councilman Freeman.
Yes, thank you. Just so anybody that's watching understands, is that our vote today, we vote because there's been over 3,000 individuals that said, yes, we do want this to be on the ballot. But I would remind them too that just because council is putting this on the ballot today does not mean that each and every one of us as council think that this is a good idea. We're simply following the lead of 3,000 individuals that set their signature to something to have it placed before the public. So, I have concerns, the devil's in the details, but as for today, we're just following through because there has been a sufficient amount of signatures gathered, and we'll see if this gets on the ballot. However, it is not an approval or a positive nod to the idea of this oversight board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Freeman. Are there any additional comments at this time? Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. We all here recognize that this does, in fact, we are bound to approve this today and place this on the ballot due to efforts, and want to recognize those efforts of those that circulated and exercised democracy through placing this on the ballot. That's not an easy task, and many of us have been involved in that task and appreciate those efforts. Right now is the time. This has been discussed, and there's still more work that needs to be done. The Racial Equity Task Force recommended this. This council discussed this in the past, and its time has come. From what I understand, over 160 cities throughout the United States have formed boards, commissions to oversee police departments. The proposed charter amendment, almost to a certain extent, and the independence is something that needs to be highlighted. However, though, this is almost like forming another entity within our city to a certain extent. Subpoena powers is part of this, and that could be troublesome because there's various ways of going about that. The investigatory, there's problems that can be problematic. There's a number of items within this. Let's set aside, let alone the piece about the FOP and the contract, which was just recently signed, 3 years to go on that. It's not something that's easily reopened. As mentioned previously, it would take both sides to reopen that. Uncertain if an FOP would want to do that and have that desire to reopen a contract based on what, an oversight. I don't know, I can't answer that, but just bring some uncertainty in terms of, if that would compel an FOP to do that. So that's one concern. There's concerns reference sunshine laws and how that would be worked out, and that's something I've heard that, we could pass this and then work it out. Council can work it out. The thing of it is, and we all know this as well, in that charter's harder. If you change the charter and you want to change it yet again to readapt, the charter's harder, okay? An ordinance and lived and learned experience. Lived and learned experience is what we're asking for, I believe, eventually, whenever we see on Monday the ordinance that would come in with the commitment, what would happen down the road in terms of a charter that would give us that experience. So absolutely voting yes on this, and asking the voters to please study and get into those details and find out exactly what this is going to be, what it's asking for, and understand that. That's what we're all here about. And looking forward to and understanding that, that this will be debated over the next 60 or so days. And so with that, I'll be recommending approval and consider that a motion for approval. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman. We just want to make sure that we had all council members had an opportunity. Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Madam President. I first want to commend the circulators who went out and garnered over 7,000 signatures with over 3,000 being valid. And yes, we are bound as a council to pass this, but we also should be bound to do the right thing. This is the right thing. I support it fully, not only as an elected official, but as a resident here in the city of Akron. I think it is overdue and it is time. The residents have called for it. We have spoken about this on our many committees that we have formed over the past few years. I wish we would have acted sooner instead of feeling like we're backed in a corner to do the right thing. So I thank the circulators because they were the ones who went out and did this work. And it's time. It's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Are there any other comments or questions at this time? Councilwoman? No? Okay, before we do, I do just want to say that democracy is a beautiful thing, and it was definitely exercised. And I want to also just commend the residents, the community leaders that hit the streets. Again, there is power in the people. And you don't have to wait on this body to act or the mayor to do anything. And so I get excited when I see people hitting the streets and doing what they believe is the right thing to do. And I will tell you, I do believe that creating a citizens review board is the right thing to do. I do believe the time is right now. And I do believe that it needs to be an independent process, and it needs to be placed on the charter. I want to thank Councilman Malik just for being really honest, right? You know, it's not perfect. Nothing is going to be perfect, right? And we got to figure out, you know, how we navigate around some of those imperfections and some of those flaws so that we can do the work that the people are asking us to do. And so at this time, I am going to ask for a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
And we have a second. All in favor, and we will do a roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Nay.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-1.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.